Summer's here, new season, beanie season's over for Warren here. And I'm also feeling like on the marketing side for Upptic, we need to spread our wings a little bit, try some new stuff this season.
Oh God, what are we trying?
Well, I was doing a lot of research this week on how Polkadot has been trying to grow their ecosystem and what kind of marketing efforts they were doing. And I got a good benchmark for us. I think this quarter, we should do the Upptic private jet branding. It's only $180,000 and we could get our logo on a private jet for 6 months. What do you think, Andrew? Do we have the budget for it?
You tell me. You're in charge of the budget. I'd say there's no way this isn't positive ROI. Let's fucking do it.
LFG. So I will screen share some things as we chat about this. First got on my radar a thread that our Web3 growth team surfaced from an account called Ignis DeFi Research, which is a good account to follow. And it was a deep dive into Polkadot's quarterly report on their marketing spend. So Polkadot, for those outside of the crypto bubble, it was founded by one of the co-creators of Ethereum and has kind of been in the background, I would say, for a lot of the last couple of crypto cycles. But they are certainly trying. So they spent $37 million on marketing over the first half of 2024, including $10 million on ads and sponsorships, $4.4 million on influencers or KOLs, and $4 million on ads. If you listen to the podcast before, you will know how much we discourage Web3 teams doing paid advertising. No one has ever bought a Web3 product or joined a Web3 ecosystem from a paid ad. Usually those are just associated with scams or shitcoins. But anyway, it gets a lot deeper than this. Fun things that they did during this, they did a race car sponsorship. A race car driver, Connor Daly, with the nice Polkadot logo on his jersey. Is that what you call it for race car drivers?
No, I just see an potential Upptic logo. That's all I see.
So I spent a little under $2 million for that. Try to come up with a scenario where a racing fan is at a race, sees a Polkadot logo, and ends up joining Web3 for the first time and purchasing Polkadot. It's really hard to draw a direct line there. Another fun thing that we found, a surprise, Xander, I have a treat for you. So here's the Google Drive folder where all of their invoices are. And there's no permissioning on this, so we can dig around. And you want to dig around and see some of the marketing spend. So here we see their invoice for KOLs or influencers for, this is last month's. So a little under $500,000.
More and raise our pricing.
We might need to raise our pricing. They paid $500,000 for 17 content creators to create content for them for the month. That is a lot of money.
That's an insane. For context, do you want to give the context of what Upptic comparable, just window would be?
Yeah, we had one of our larger partners say that they wanted to spend $40,000 in a month on content creators and KOLs, and we actually said that is way too much. You should back off from that.
Right. So this is an insane amount to be spending, an objectively ludicrous amount to be spending.
Yeah, when it comes to Web3, we're a big believer in KOLs and content creators within Web3, but there's a few principles that we believe in. One is just sort of minimum viable dose, which is a lot of people follow the same accounts. So if you cover kind of one person in a given ecosystem or bubble, you're going to get some halo effects, because if you covered their 5 homies that cover the same content, it's kind of diminishing returns. Related to that is the halo effect of working with content creators, that if you work with the right content creators in a sponsored way, you're going to get organic coverage as well if you do the right kind of content with them. If it's sincere and compelling content that gets a project on the radar of other content creators, they will cover it organically, because not 100% of the content that these folks do is paid content. It's a mix of paid and organic. So yeah, throw that all out the door with Polkadot's strategy. And then my personal favorite was $180,000 for private jet fleet brandization for 6 months.
I don't even know what to say about that.
I did some fun math on this. I did some, here at Upptic, we try to measure everything. We try to quantify everything. So off of this $37 million marketing spend, here is some math on what they accomplished. From an article on the Polkadot forums, they said that it appeared successful with total content views exceeding 15 million, total likes over 570,000, and over 60,000 comments. So how does that math out? Assuming those numbers are correct, and there is no bots, and assuming 0 existing users are creating this interaction.
To be clear, those are bad assumptions, to be clear.
Yeah, those are bad assumptions. It is $2.46 cents per impression. We usually buy media in the concept of CPM, or cost per 1,000 impressions. So like a normal cost per 1,000 impression might be around $10 for relevant traffic. This is $2,460 CPM. If you were measuring by likes, they paid $65 per like at minimum, assuming none of that's from existing users and none is bots. And if you're measuring by comments, they paid $616 per comment. So that all sounds pretty horrible, but to play the other side of that, I looked at some on-chain data. So this marketing spend might not be as disastrous as it sounds on first glance. So I used the site Token Terminal to look at some on-chain data, and we're in a bad few months for crypto right now. Most things are quite down. And if we look at the price of Polkadot over the last 6 months period, we see that it's down from a high of $11 to about half that, $5.90. But I would posit that the most important metric off of something like this would probably be unique new people in their ecosystem. And the best metric for that is unique token holders. So from that vantage point, they actually increased almost 100,000 people. They were closer to 1.2 million at the start of the year, and they're closer to 1.3 million now. That still might sound expensive, but going back to my notes here, that means they basically paid $370 per net new holder. I actually don't think that that's that bad, especially in a bear market period. If you think about how hard it is to bring on board a new person into a crypto ecosystem, $370 doesn't sound like a crazy amount at the end of the day. I mean, when we think about, like, it's a bad analogy, but like in a free-to-play game, the cost per unique new payer, sometimes teams are willing to pay $20, $50, even $100, depending on the game economy, to bring in a new known payer. So I don't know. What do you think about all these metrics, Xander? What do you think about these marketing experiments from Polkadot? And what do you think about the counter argument that maybe $370 per net new holder isn't that disastrous?
Well, that's a beautiful all-in marketing spend metric. What I mean by that is, like, how much of this is incremental from the ad spend, right? So you follow the crypto markets way more closely than I do. There's been a fair amount of bullish momentum in crypto over the last several months, specifically in terms of gaining mainstream popularity for stuff like the Bitcoin ETF and the Ethereum ETF. You know, obviously that is not directly translating into Polkadot, but it does make this more mainstream. And, you know, if it's 100,000 new holders, it's not crazy to imagine that there's a majority of that, or some significant portion of that would happen as crypto adoption becomes larger overall. So, I mean, if you could do one-to-one attribution, I don't know if $400 per user is a lot or not. It still seems like a lot. I mean, you're obviously not getting $400 of value from each one of these users. I can't imagine you are. But, I mean, it's better than, I guess, if you look at it on a $616 per comment basis. It still seems the same to me, personally. But the flip side of it is they're literally printing the money. And so, you know, if you can literally print money, then I guess you can spend it.
Well, I think the takeaway here is Web3 marketing is still so nascent. Even for things like games, like there's not normalized playbooks, but when you get into more esoteric things like marketing a chain and the potential audience for that, there is no established playbook for this. No one has scaled the users of a chain through like paid advertising, not in a measurable way through KOL marketing. It's all kind of open pasture. One thing to note about how this happened was actually through a bit of a democracy, actually. So there's votes on marketing proposals within any decentralized ecosystem, such as Polkadot, and it was actually voted by the community to approve this marketing initiative. But digging into it a bit further, and good catch on producer Casey for this, we found that there is one holder of 30 million DOT, the Polkadot token, that was basically the deciding force on this. And this kind of comes back to one of my pet peeves about crypto marketing and Web3 marketing. Communities always want to see marketing. They're always like, why not more marketing? We need to see marketing, but they're not intrinsically marketers themselves. So what I've seen within crypto is people like the stuff that they can see and feel. They like when there's the Times Square billboard because they can see, oh, that's our marketing money at work. They like when it's on the F1 racer because they can see like, oh, I'm watching TV. I see our logo there. This has nothing to do with what actually converts. So it's almost like, what is the phrase? The tragedy of the commons?
Tragedy of the commons, fallacy of the commons. Yeah, tragedy of the commons.
Yeah, but I don't think that marketing works at its best when it's voted on by committee, especially if that committee are not marketers themselves.
I have a question. Do you think this 30 million DOT holder happens to own an F1 car or a fleet of private jets? Because let me tell you, that's what this looks like to me.
He might have found it there. One last thing here, I did want to go to the Upptic Web3 team. and get their comments on this, especially because Matt from our Web3 marketing team was the one that initially flagged this. So a few comments from our team. Matt himself said, while a lot of people argue Web3 and gaming KOLs charge a lot, it's nothing compared to these rates of crypto influencers. This finally shows a bit of transparency on the order of magnitude we're talking about. Some of these deliverables are essentially priced over $1,000 CPMs in terms of payouts versus impressions. Yeah, we touched on that. Dylan from our team said, blockchains are wanting to advertise and spend money, which is a good thing, but are still seriously misinformed about where and how to spend their money and get a positive ROI. That's why everyone should hire Upptic. I like Dylan's thinking there. And then Sharif from the team said, KOL marketing, just like any other strategy, should be curated and not seen as a shotgun approach. If they had curated their selections more heavily, they could have saved millions. Not all impressions are made equal, and some with lower impressions may actually convert better to the CTA than inflated metrics. And then lastly, we had Jerry, one of our KOL leads, who said, Web3 teams are spending money into the void. There has been insane amount of money spent by Polkadot this year alone, and there's nothing to show for it. We talk about a million other chains before we talk about Polkadot, so where is all the money going? With the lack of traditional marketing channels available to the Web3 space, it's led to highly inflated KOL and creator rates. Conversion and ROI on these people are generally low across the board with few exceptions. Teams need to learn to be much more curated with their spend and not spend money just because they have it. Worried about Polkadot's runway and long-term health after seeing these numbers. So even our KOL team is saying that this is not a good use of your KOL funds, and they would probably know best.
They would.
As always, the pod was brought to you by our team here at Upptic. We do games growth. We build software to automate and streamline all aspects of that, and we do all the work. We design the creative, manage paid UA, work with KOLs and influencers, and provide all the analytics, all the moving pieces around games growth. So if you're building a sweet game and need good folks to help you scale it, reach out to us through our website. That's upptic.com, upptic.com.